Yeah, it was just so superficial. I wanted to be Diane Sawyer, undercover, exposing people. But I really enjoyed community affairs a lot. And then they closed that department because everybody was cutting back. And so then I ended up in sports marketing and national sales, which was really fun. I worked for the Brewers and Packers and Bucks. Excuse me, just 1 second. Oh, I missed it.
Okay. I'm just hearing talking.
All right. This is our art gallery. Where do you guys want to start?
Wherever you want to start. Yeah.
Wherever I want to start. Well, you're going to be interviewing Susan Millets. When are you interviewing her?
Sorry?
Susan Millets?
Well, it's today.
Today you are.
After Michelle.
After Michelle? Okay. So Susan will tell you about how long the art gallery's been going on. Michelle will tell you about the garden. So I'll just tell you about the church proper. Why don't we start in there then? All right. This is an Episcopal church. It was founded, I believe, in 1893. And it was a mission church from the church downtown, the cathedral church. And normally people don't come this way. This is the way the pastors and all the servants come through. This is the back way. But you'll notice that we have a courtyard. And originally with the church, there was a guild hall that was right here. And in the 50s, they decided that they were going to build something that would last for the whole community. And so they decided to add the guild hall that you see, that we just walked through. But they wanted to create, this is like a cloister, and we actually inter members in here. So we have ashes in the courtyard.
What word is that you use?
Inter. Inter is basically you're burying the ashes. So people that were cremated, and then we put the ashes in the ground. It's pretty neat.
In jars or?
They're in little, I think what we do is usually people get them as in a box. They get the whole ashes in a box. And usually people want to have some of them for their home. But so what we'll do is we'll dig just a little hole and they'll dump just a little bit of the ashes in, and then we'll cover it up and resod. We just recently had one over on the other side, so then the grass so it's continually adding to our courtyard. And every once in a while they have services out here and things like that. But they usually do a burial here. They do a funeral, and then they do the burial here. It's the burial rites and everything. So it's kind of nice. We have a garden guild that takes care of the area, and they're constantly redoing the design. And we have a wonderful gardener in the community that donates her time. She's a member here, and she's just fantastic. This is the church proper, and in some religions it's called the sacristy, but here we call it the church proper because where the priest gets ready is called the upper sacristy, and then where the altar guild gets everything ready is called the lower sacristy. It's just some weird thing that the Episcopals do. I know I'm Lutheran, and they call this the sacristy and that the narthex. But here, we just call it the church proper. And this part of the church is 101 years old. And let me just get all the lights on so you have the full effect. And I think originally the church was on Bradford And then they moved it here. And this was built in 1912. And the acoustics are fabulous. I don't know when they added this, all this is actually Gold Guild wallpaper, I think. I know the stained glass windows were added in the 50s, so it went some time before they had them in. That was part of we had a pastor that was a really good fundraiser. And he basically we had about, I think, 600 people. I think they had 3 services in the 50s. That was the big heyday. And that's what he did. He raised funds to improve the church. They put in all the stained glass. And, but that's really all they did. I mean, the Gothic architecture was in existence from the get-go, and the altar had been here from the beginning.
And you said there was a spring here?
Yes, the Episcopals have become a little bit more liberal throughout the ages. There used to be a screen here, I believe. This was the main altar. In the last couple of years, what they did is they wanted to extend it out to the congregation more. So now we basically just use this altar that's behind you. And our pastor does the communion on that altar.
What was it about the 50s that, as opposed to now or before, that caused this blossoming?
Well, I think in the 50s, you had the baby boomers surging. So we just had, from what I understand from a couple of historians, is that in the 40s, people couldn't really move out because of the war. So they were all pretty much congested here. And so this area was really, really hopping. People couldn't move out. But after the war, they started moving north and west. And so we kind of had a turnaround. We had a lot of people that had been members, their families had been members from the beginning of the church, move north. And we had started, there's a church called St. Christopher's in River Hills that was a mission. You've been there? Okay. And actually the pastor that raised all the money, the big fundraiser, his name was Stimpson. He was asked by the congregation out there, that was like a fox hunt club or something, a hunt club originally, and they were non-denominational, and they took a vote and decided that they were going to go with the Episcopal religion and asked him if he would start it out there. So for the first 2 years, I think, he started the church. And so we had our congregation basically split in two. People that were living there still coming down here finally had a place close to home. So that split the congregation. And then you had just a lot of people moving west and north, and Christ Church in Whitefish Bay opened up a little bit after us, I think. In the 50s, too, there was just a big turnaround. You'll notice that there's a lot of Jewish establishments down here. I think the immediate area just turned over, and a lot of it became more Jewish-oriented. Now you see another revitalization going on, where the church is growing again. You see that there's more families down here. I don't know if it was the university, and it was very transitional for a while. Now we have families that are staying. And I know I belong to the church that's 2 blocks down, Lake Park Lutheran, and it's insane how it's grown. I think they had 70 people, and maybe 35 of them weren't homebound in like 1997. And since then, I mean, it's like quadrupled, and most of it's young families.
Has that hasn't happened here, though?
It has. It's starting to happen more. I think what happened here, it's a lot of politics. We had a really fabulous pastor, and the diocese basically kind of took him. He was so good. He was so beloved. So in the meantime, we had an interim pastor, and you really can't bond. And a lot of times when that happens, a lot of people go to different places, and they get disgruntled with the changes, and people just loved him so much. So now, for probably the past, I think since 2007, Pastor April has been the pastor here, and so she's been slowly growing the congregation. Not to the extent of the Lake Park people, but it's happening. And I think they're just maybe 5 years behind what Lake Park has done. That's just my own personal, don't quote me on that. It's just what I've seen. And it's because she's established and now people are recognizing her and she's able to build her church as opposed to having people, just in and out, more of a transient nature. It's just an interim. So.
Has the nature of the congregation changed? I mean,
Yes, it
different
has. It has, absolutely. In the 50s, it was very, very conservative.
And also family.
It was very, very, yes. On Easter Sunday, to give you an example, we have some old timers here that remember in the heyday, they actually wore tuxes with tails on Easter Sunday. Everybody had a corsage in the 50s. And it was very high church. It was, which means very people dressed up, and it was you were here basically to be seen. There was a lot of political background. That's just what you did. And now the congregation is a lot more liberal. I think in just their mindset and what their outreach programs are. Back in the 50s, if you start doing the research, you'll notice that there were a lot of guilds. There were like a lot of fashion shows and brunches and ladies' aid type things. And the ladies really carried over a lot of the fundraising. I mean, it's kind of, there's a portion in our centennial booklet that the pastor said, hey, you guys need to step up. The women are really outdoing you and everything. And but I think that's typical with almost all the churches in the area. The women really pulled it together. But nowadays, our church is very liberal, which I think is common on the east side. I think you see that. You've seen this big changeover. And some of the things that they're involved in right now, they're involved in Common Ground, which is social justice. They're working on education and healthcare reform and the housing banking industry. They took over a number of houses in the Sherman Park area, and they were just, they would go and tour the area, make certain that nobody was breaking into them, just trying to keep the houses updated and maintained while they were in foreclosure, just so that the neighborhood wouldn't go downhill. There's a lot of love here. There's a lot of giving back. They have a number of different organizations, international and local, that they give money to. We do a pumpkin sale every year. I think last year they raised over $9,000 to go to the various organizations. We have a flower sale that goes, all the funding goes to all these organizations. What else do they do? They do serving dates at the Gathering. The Gathering is a meal program downtown, and some of the ladies that are members actually initiated it. Our deacon is very much involved in it, Deacon Michelle. You can ask her about her involvement with the Gathering when you talk to her. She's been doing that for years, and they actually, I think, started it. But there's just a lot of different, I've worked with many churches doing marketing. I for whatever reason, after I used to work for the lieutenant governor, and I took some time off and freelanced for a while. And this church is so different because the people, I've never met such a group they're so dedicated to the church. They have men's group every Saturday, and they come in and they do as many repairs that they can by themselves, because this is really a big church to maintain. You know, we had to replace the roof a couple years ago, and it was $80,000. Everything's $80,000. The doors, we were told to replace the doors. They would be $10,000 for each door. So, and it's a 100-year-old church, so it needs a lot of upkeep. But their hearts are, they're so welcoming and so friendly, and they really love this church. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. They give their blood, sweat, sinew, tears, everything, and it's just so beautiful to see that. They're very willing to step up and help, which is, not always the case. I think in younger churches too, I think in the old days it was more about how much money can you give to the church and building these edifices. And nowadays it's more of, okay, let's give back to the community. And that's what I really like about working for these guys, because they practice what they preach. They give back, and they're very involved in trying to make the world a better place. So.
Is the active congregation mostly older?
It's more diverse than some of the churches in the area. We have young families. The active congregation, I mean, we have a lot of retirees, and they're the ones that really have the time to give their time and talents, which I think is in every church. But there's a nice cross-section of families and older people, and they're diverse as far as, they're more liberal. We have a couple of gay people that attend. Our senior vestry member worked at UWM, and she was lesbian. So you have that openness and embracement. We have a couple of people of color that come. I mean, it's just with the East Side, there's just not that many, but we do, we have like a fabulous professor who's African, and we have a young woman who's African, from Africa, and they add so much. I mean, it's really, really cool that for like coffee hour, they'll bring things that's traditional to their culture. So, and everybody's really open to it and embracing about it, and it's fabulous. Mm-hmm.
Now, economically, do you draw from, I don't know if there is that wealth that used to be.
Not that it used to be. Yeah, I know. It's not the Wall, Terrace Avenue. Yeah. We have a lot of people in the neighborhood that can walk here. I think that's initially the core of the congregation. But we also have people that live out in River Hills. A lot of people in River Hills that still come down here that prefer us over to St. Christopher's for whatever reason, or their roots are here, so they continue to come here. We have a couple people that come from the south side of Milwaukee, and so people come distances. I think the big thing is once you have a bond, not just with the church, but with the congregation, you know, you come because of that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that good churches that are surviving are not the hospice churches, you know, that are just catering to their older. They're bringing in all different types of people, I think, and we're doing that, and I can see where the revitalization's happening. It's exciting. It's neat because, you know, I mean, for a while this area was it was tapering off, and it's just neat to see people giving back and really dedicated to their faith. And I don't know, we have a lot of converts too, Catholic converts. I think because the Episcopal religion is all the pomp and circumstance. I shouldn't be saying this, but but it you know, but it's a little bit more liberal. Yeah, I think it's not. I think some people are unhappy with the Catholic Church, and they're looking for something else, and we're close but not. It's still the same structure. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel you've got as many children in the congregation as you
Not as
should?
well. The children, you know what? I think it's a cultural, social thing. I think we have our children are growing, our families are growing, but it's difficult because you're competing with soccer, and it's not, Sundays are no longer sacred. I think, you know, you've got a lot of different things going on. And in this particular area, Shorewood and Whitefish Bay and the East Side, you have people that are really investing in their kids, and in order to become competitive in today's world, you have to be involved in all these sports and activities and things like that. I think, I don't know, that's just that's my opinion.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times it's very difficult. We have a Right 13 group, which is basically our young teens or preteens and teens, and it's difficult to get them together. I know it's frustrating for some of our teachers because you're competing with the sports that are going on, as well as sometimes there's a divorce situation, so the children are at one week here and 1 week here, and it's just, there's a lot of juggling. Schedules are not what they used to be.
But what about attending services? Are the children at the services?
You've mentioned
Yeah.
that in the children's.
That used to be, way back in the day, well, not way back in the day, but we used to have a children's chapel. I know in the 50s, they had their own separate, we had like crazy choirs, and I mean, they were really, really involved. Nowadays, I mean, you do see it, it's waning off. But I think it's coming back. I think people want that stability, and that, I think kids need that too. But it's not, we don't have as many of the kids as obviously as we did in the 50s. In the 50s, they had a whole building. We had a gentleman that came who went to church here, and he was enlightening me what it was like to come here. And it was, you had to come to church. There was no, oh, I'm not feeling well. It was, you were going to be there. And he remembers that the old guild hall, and how they had all the Sunday school classes in there, and how big it was. One of the young ladies who I think she just graduated from Madison, she recalled how when she was little, she would look at the teen group. They had the run of the basement, and she could not wait to be a teen so she could be part of that group. But you know, we went through this transition, so we had a lot of people that just kind of faded away. Now we're getting the pull from a lot of people that are new in the neighborhood. The neighborhood's revitalizing too. When I was at UWM, like in 1992, 93, I mean, I remember the Coffee Trader was really, really the place to go. I mean, it was the place. We would go there and we'd have potato noshers, and everybody would drink coffee out of the coffee presses. That was so cool. And it was just like this big smoky artist environment. You would go there and you'd study and you'd meet your friends there, and it was just a walking distance from UWM. And it was the place. And there was a really cool clothing shop in there too, Valentino's, and I think they're out in Brookfield now. They moved west. And I think people on Downer, I know that there was a new owner that came in and raised the rent. Susan will tell you, she lived down here and she loved it. She'll give you a lot of neat information of what it was like just, you know, 20 years ago. And, but you know, you have that pull, and with the university too, we're involved in the UCM Lunch Bunch program. UCM is United Christian Ministries, and what they do something really cool. They get all the area churches to come in once a week, and they bring food for like over 100 kids, because all the kids can come and have lunch, and then they worship together if they want, or they do a Bible study and things like that. And so we've been involved in that for a considerable amount of time. So a lot of the students we have some students that come here, but a lot of them are also getting served over really close, you know, to the dorm areas. There's a lot of the ministries over there that we support. But it's cool. We're we're moving towards bigger and better things, and we've got a really good leader. Our pastor, April, has been here since I think 2007, and it's taken a while to just kind of settle in, I think, and let people know that she's here and the direction of the church.
Is she the first woman?
Yes, she is.
Does that make a difference to the appeal to the area?
Does it make a difference, excuse me?
To the church's appeal, you think?
You know, I'll be honest, I don't know if it does to other people, but when my husband and I were looking for a church down here, we were interviewing churches and shopping, and I was attracted to it. I thought that was very laid back, and I love that. And that's one of the reasons we joined the church that we joined, because we had such a great connection with our women pastor. I mean, obviously they can do the same things, but I think it's also kind of neat that the congregation chose her. You know, that says something that they chose her, first woman pastor. And I think she's very sensitive to the family's needs. She has a young family right now, which is why you're not talking to her today, because she's on maternity leave with her second baby. And, and I think that is, and the congregation is so thrilled and they love it. And it's pretty neat that, she can balance everything and she does a really good job. I mean, Sure. This is the chapel over here. We do healing services after our regular services once a month. So they do special healing services. We used to do them on Wednesdays, but the attendance dropped down, so we no longer do them. I think the children back in the 50s and 60s used to worship in here too. Occasionally we'll do small weddings in here and or funerals. We've had some smaller funerals.
I just happened to notice this
Sure.
plaque in loving memory of Marjorie Montgomery Ward Baker. Montgomery Ward, is that?
I don't know. I would assume this was where like all the mayors went to church back in the day, and it was very socially. This was the socialite church. It was very prestigious as far as the giving. The pastor that solicited people did a lot of golfing. He owned a house on Wall, this big mansion, which you probably found pictures of. And yeah, he targeted the upper crust. And you'll see a lot of plaques around here of names, and it's pretty, there's a lot of, the founders of Milwaukee came here. The windows, you'll notice too, not the ones in here, but the ones out here. So there's almost all of them are memorials. I know there's plaques everywhere. This was like a huge movement that they were doing in the 50s. They were trying to, the Moravian lights, and it's unfortunate though that they couldn't fix the floors, huh?
Oh, you have to have a little bit.
Yes.
In memoriam, 1858, 1908. Are some of the windows older?
No, I don't think so. I think that those are the birth and death dates. So it's in memoriam of Frank Marson Fish, and those are his. I've come across some, we no longer use this store because it's just not on the main way. I've come across some records of how much the windows were. I was really shocked because I had thought that they were original to the church. My first week here, we used to have the Historical Society bring buses in to do tours of the area, and I had no idea, and I thought, I better find out about these things. Now, I don't know why, but we used to have Stations of the Cross. I think they took them down for Lent, because you have to take everything down and have it really, we strip the church proper, and they just haven't been put back up. Yes. Which are the Stations of the Cross. These are all, I think this is Jesus' life from, I think this is the Annunciation. I don't know. I shouldn't. I think that's Lazarus. This one is nice. See, this one is 1943, but I think they were put in much later. These are all made by the Wagner Brothers Studios. This one is, I think this is really fascinating. It's really interesting. The Episcopal Church keeps everything in their registry. We have register books from 1893. And in the First War, you register when a person joins the church and has their first communion or baptism, and their funerals are all recorded. And I love going through this book because you can see the fountain pens, and how it's evolved. But what's really fascinating to me, which I haven't really been able to figure out, I've got theories, but in the First War we have a number of servicemen that were killed. that were documented in our books. In the Second War, I don't have one person documented. And I was talking to an old-timer, and she said she doesn't recall anybody dying in the war, which just seems kind of unusual. But then when you think of the majority of the congregation was very wealthy, I don't know if they were all officers and they didn't have to actually do the fighting, so they weren't exposed. But it's kind of an interesting,
I just want to, for the record, I just want to say that the window says R.A. Sutherland Architect, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Wagner Brothers Studio, probably the window, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. And the resurrection window up there is also given, well, the plate is right there. It says, "This resurrection window is given by many friends to the glory of God and in loving memory of all those whom we have loved and lost a while." So that's 1953, which that coincides with the paperwork that I have, that a lot of the windows were put in the 50s. Even though this says 43, I think they were put in much later. We've taken out a pew here so that we can, because for our kids, we're trying to be accommodating to the moms and dads in the congregation so they can play on the floor and listen and not miss out on the sermons. So that's why there's these big gaping spaces with books and kid things. Mm-hmm.
When do you think Michelle is going?
It's almost 10:30. Let's see, I hope I was going to call her yesterday and say, remember, but I told her on Friday we looked up the time. So I thought, all right, she knows. Just so you can see the secrets of the church. This is the lower sacristy. This is where the altar guild gets ready. We have a bunch of women and men that are very, very, very dedicated. And then up here, this is the upper sacristy. This is where our pastor gets ready. And the altar guild lays out the robes and everything every Sunday. So this is our register book and attendance, so you can see how many people take communion and the number of people present. We had a big funeral here, and I mean, it's down because it's summer. Everybody takes time off in summer. But we usually have about 190 people that attend throughout every Sunday. Right now we have Tom Niehaus, who's our interim pastor while our pastor's away. Did you take pictures? Michelle! This is our choir room. I think did Steve talk to you about, did you guys find a time?
Oh, yeah. And actually, we were talking to Steve
After Susan? All right, this is the choir room. We have a baby grand in there that you guys probably took pictures of. Music has always been a very, very important part of the Episcopal religion, and this church specifically, we have a number of dedicated choir people that practice every Tuesday, I think, or Wednesday, Wednesday, but they're off for summer. But this is Steve's big arena of fun. He also teaches piano classes here and to a lot of the kids in the community. And here you can see, maybe it's a little, he's got his own organizational system, which is beyond me. This is our kitchen. What's unusual about this kitchen is when they built this in the 50s, or maybe it was 60s, more towards the later 50s, I'm not really certain when this was added. I can find out for you though. because of the nature of the neighborhood and the wealth in the neighborhood, this is not really a functioning kitchen. This is more of a banquet kitchen. So people, when they would have their teas and their fundraisers and things like that, their servant people would bring over the food, and they would use it as, I mean, we have a stove. We use it every week when the guys are doing their breakfast. It's bacon fest time. The whole church smells like bacon when the men's group meets. But for the most part, like a lot of times too, you'll see in some of the older churches, you'll have, like the Lutheran churches, you'll have those windows, the serving windows. We didn't have that here because it was basically a banquet kitchen.
So they brought their own servants too?
Sometimes, I think, or the servants brought over things, and and so it was not like they didn't make the meals here; they were catered. If that makes any sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Uh-huh. Unfortunately, this poor kitchen, we get probably 3 calls a week from people who want to start businesses and are hoping that our kitchen's up to code. Our kitchen is not up to code. We just can't, and it would probably cost like $300,000 to make it up to code. But there's a real need if you ever like win the lottery and you're looking for something to invest in. Industrial kitchens, commercialized kitchens are the way to go. That's what I would do.
Well, let me ask you something. If it was up to code, how would that work out with the church and the private people coming in to do a business? I don't understand.
Well, it would be very difficult because of insurance. That's another.
But let's say, what would be the idea behind it if everything was go for
If everything was
business?
go, well, we could bring in some revenue. You have to be careful because you can't make more. We're a nonprofit, but we have so many expenses that we'll never. I mean, it's just we'll just never. So. What people have asked us is if they could pay rent to use the kitchen, and if it's up to code, they can't sell their products unless they use a kitchen that's up to code, and that's been.
Or they just want to manufacture.
Yes.
They don't want to.
We had a woman
sell it out of the church.
We had a woman who wanted to make caramels. We had a gentleman who wanted to do crepes. He's got a food truck now. You'll see it around the Milwaukee area. He does crepes at different festivals and things like that. We get telephone calls all the time. Hi, Sue.
Oh, okay, you're here. All
I
right.
am here. I'm giving a tour.
Okay,
These are UWM students that are doing a project and researching the Downer area.
okay, great.
I'm going to bring them down to the thrift store just in a second.
Sure.
Is Michelle down there with you?
No, I've been trying to reach her and I can't get her by her cell phone or her regular
Okay.
phone.
She was supposed to meet with these guys, and we're worried
Yeah,
about
I
her.
know, Ellie said she was going to some lighting store. So she might have forgotten.
Oh,
And
no.
I tried her cell phone and it rang and rang, I didn't get voicemail. So
Yeah.
You
All
might
right.
want to try her again.
All right.
I tried her home also.
This is Sue Rohde. She's in
Hi.
charge of our thrift store downstairs, which we'll go down in just a second.
Okay,
So that doesn't give a bode well for your interview with Michelle. This is the Guild Hall. This was added on in the 50s, and the reason that they added it on, they had this great dream that they would be the community center. They used to have dances here, and we used to show movies. There's a projection booth up there and the screen, so the kids used to come and get together, and they still do that. We still do teen night, and we still do adult formation classes where we'll show movies and we'll talk about it. In addition, the spot is used, we have an exercise class, Sweat and Dance, that rents the space out on Monday nights. We have AA groups that utilize this coffee area. We do all of our coffee hours here on Sundays after worship, unless it's nice and we can be outside. We've held some big weddings. This used to be a wedding reception. We've had a couple wedding receptions. We also have an art class that meets here on Wednesdays, although she's been having difficulty getting the people here lately. But and she lives just across the street. So it's pretty hoppin' place. We've done, and UWM also, they rent out our kitchen to do kitchen cooking classes, and they also do exercise. We have yoga. We have a yoga instructor that just left this morning, And so we try to keep it open to the community. We have a very minimal, I think we charge $25 an hour, so we make it feasible for people to be able to do things.
Something you said just before
Mhm.
about use of this space for the community made me think that you didn't think it was being used enough by the community.
It is now. This last year, we've really upped it. In fact, now we have to balance. Our church events with the community events, and it's not what they envisioned, though. I mean, it's not like they have the dances here. Times have changed, and you're not going to have that. We have fundraising events. We have Taste of the East Side, which is something the church isn't doing this year, but it's done a few years. And what they do is they go to area businesses and get people to donate things, and basically it's fundraising for the church. It's a big auction, raffle, and dinner. They get different restaurants that bring in food, and it's kind of a really, really neat thing. I think when they did the community thing, the community hall here, though, they anticipated that a lot more of the outside community would be involved in coming to different church events. And what we're doing is we're really renting it out to the different. I don't think the vision is quite what they is really. I think originally when they first put it in, they were doing it, but I think we've faded away from that.
But
Now.
it still promotes the community.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, we have the art gallery, and which you'll talk to Susan about, and I mean, we have like a lot of community events, and we get involved. We're gearing up right now for the Downer bike race, and
What will you be doing for the bike race?
for the bike race, the bike race is so exciting. It is, it's really cool. The Downer merchants have tried to pull together and create different events to drag people out and so that you can mingle with your fellow neighbors. And it's part of the Criterion, and it's on June 29th. It's a Saturday. And so for a number of years, probably over 10, we've done the corn roast, which the funds go to our outreach groups. But then on the side here, we own the side lot over here, the green space, and we create that into a kids zone. And we work in concert with Church in the City, which is our next door church. And we have tents with bands that play from 1 o'clock till 7:30. And we face paint, and we have arts and crafts and clowns, and they give away free water bottles. We're giving away free popcorn. We have a scavenger hunt that we pass out the maps, and then the kids can go to the area businesses up and down Downer, and they'll give them prizes. And we also have bike race. We host the bike race registration for the kids, and so anyone between, I think, 4 and 13 can register for different heats, and they have a window where they don't have the big bike races going on, where the little kids do it. And our pastor in the past couple of years has gone out and done bike blessings right before the kids race, which is really cute. It is, it's super, super cute. So it's a big, crazy community day, and it's fabulous, and everybody comes out, and the last year we had a nice write-up about it and our involvement. We've really tried to create kind of a safe haven place for the families to go. When the bike races started out, I was in college. We used to come down here, and it was more of a college. You would come down, you'd watch the bike race, you'd have a couple beers, and now those people are bringing their kids. So one day I was looking, and I'm like, there's no place for these kids to be. We need to have a space. This is perfect. So we've converted this space. Yeah, well, not totally. I mean, it's evolved. It's really, really neat. People now, one of our members is like, we should do bubbles. We need bubbles. And she brought her bubble machine. Everybody has their own ideas, and we're really open to it. It's really, really neat. So yeah, the bike race, that's what I'm working on now. It's very fun. We're trying to get our bands all lined up. We like to have the bands go on until 7:30, and then at 8 o'clock, it's the big, crazy announcements of the big race. So we try to be finished by that time so people can hear all the announcements.
I really wish this was video.
Oh yeah,
Because,
my
that-
animation.
Yeah.
I don't. Not today.
Her kind
No,
of gesturing.
not today. You guys come back and take a
great.
picture.
You look great
I rolled out of bed this morning. I've got to.
What we do is when we have the
Yeah.
the audio,
Yeah.
then there's just a picture of you. And
Aw.
I think we're going to use a lot of this material, so I think we need several pictures.
Oh, Danielle, you don't want to. You know what? This is like.
She's talking and just.
Do you want to maybe go out in the guild hall? This is like the worst room to take pictures in because it's the dark. Or is it okay? Are you turning okay? All right. I'm like constantly. We have like a number of professional photographers in the congregation, and they hate whenever I ask them to take pictures of our different. Because we have like Seder dinners and we have like all these dinners and. It was just, they always say, oh, this is the worst room to do, and everybody's always in here. Like in the kitchen, pictures turn out. In here, they're okay, but everybody's always in here. And I'm really sorry. I apologize about Michelle. I know that she was.
We are getting such.
What's odd?
With you.
Oh yeah, you think? See, what's odd is when I came in this morning, I looked, and her car was next to my car. So I thought, all right, she's here. She's coming. I'm so sorry, you go. Yeah, there used to be, we'll go upstairs, there used to be a nursery and a child care facility upstairs. And that's where a lot of our playground equipment and everything that you'll see outside. But I think there's a rule that you have to have them on the first floor now. I don't know, so we haven't been able to do that. Hello. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, I'm just looking to see if I have to turn in some slips, but I think I don't have them.
All right.
Do you ever go to
my
Stone
mom.
Creek?
Not really. Me neither. These are UWM students that are doing a big project on the church and Downer area, the Downer area and the community. Barbara is a very recent member in consideration to some of our older members that have been here forever. She moved up here 2 years ago? Three, and she became active right away. And she's in charge of our coffee hour.
That reminds me, I should look and see.
Yeah.
Where did you move up here from?
Ludington, Michigan. Actually moved down.
Yeah. Yep, she's one of our beloved members. She gives her heart and sweat and everything.
I've been embraced. I was. I got more hugs here than that first day when I was, you weren't here the first day I was here, crying.
Yeah.
Right.
Barb
My
went through,
husband had died just like 3 weeks before I came here.
it was terrible, like in transits, it was not,
Yeah, he
excuse
died
me.
when I came here.
Good morning, St. Mark's Episcopal Church. This is Stacy. Hello, I have the UWM students here and you forgot about them. That's okay, I've been giving him a tour in all the dirt on the church. Yes, they're meeting with Susan and then Steve Wolf later. Yes. Now, also, I don't know why, but Susan Brody's been trying to get a hold of you. Fantastic. Okay, I'll let them know. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye. All right. Michelle says she's so sorry. She's in Ogden coming back, and she apologizes profusely. She forgot.
That's fine. Okay, this has been wonderful.
Okay, good.
We'll just add it on.
Just
to
keeps,
this
yeah.
wonderful text that we have here.
Let's go upstairs quick while she's here. The church, I think that this was the pastor's area first, and this was the library, and then they flipped it out. I don't know why. But here, let me take you down here really quick just so that you can see. We have this roving art gallery, and Susan will tell you all about it. But this one has got a number of different artists. It's not just one artist. This is the Bride's Walk. And I just think this is so cool. They call this the Bride's Walk because this is the route of the bride when she comes through. And I love the leaded glass and the stained glass. A lot of times they go out and have their pictures done. It's so nice. I mean, everything is like right here for them. But this, I think, is where the original church ended. And so people come in through these doors. This is usually and then into the main area that you guys came through. And I can open this up if you guys want pictures. We can open up, it'll give it light, or you'll have more of a, yeah, we don't have air conditioning. It's a real bummer.
Even with the high ceilings?
We can't. I mean, it's so expensive. It's like $90,000, I think, to install. I think that's the next thing.
I suppose we're not.
We have fans, but the fans we turn on in the winter because they push the heat down. A lot of times we have weddings and the brides are always like, can't you turn the fans on? I'm like, you don't want me to turn the fans on because it's just going to push all the heat right onto you and it's going to be horrible. But we have heat in here, which is good.
You need it.
Yep, because it's the vaulted ceilings. In winter, when I go in to distribute the bulletins on Fridays, some days I bring my jacket because it can be pretty cold in there. Excuse me. Hi there. This is our normal thrift shop ladies trying to get in. Let's give you a tour down here real quick. You can see the thrift shop in action. Hi. Oh, hi, Jim.
How you doing?
Here, can I give you
Oh,
I'm giving a tour real quick. It's
Okay.
the silver keys. You know the drill.
okay, thank you.
It's all open. All right, this is our basement. When this was first erected, this is where all the youth groups met. And we also had a thrift store. I think the thrift store's been around since the 50s, but we'll ask Sue, because she'll know. They used to just have it in the back room. They've expanded it to this space. We've had reoccurring floods, and it's really unfortunate. It's just, in order to fix it, we have to, I think, raise the driveway area and everything, and so it's really a shame. But we have a bunch of resident and artists that practice down here. There's like their own little, it's kind of scary, it's a music den, and they take care of it on their own, and it's kind of messy and fun, but this is the thrift store. And this is Sue, who you met before, and she's in charge. She's just fabulous. She dedicates all these
I'll give you 2 hours to stop talking.
Saturdays and Tuesdays. It's Tuesdays and Saturdays from 10 to noon. And this is Ellie Mosley. She's a longtime member. She dedicates a lot of her time down here too. Tuesdays. Ellie lived down the street. For how many years did you live down? 16.
But now I live in a condo. About
Yes.
7 minutes from here.
Yes.
Not bad.
They're easing up. Their maintenance of the
Yes.
it's a lot easier. Yes. Sue, do you know how long the thrift store's been open?
52 or 3 years.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, a long time.
And originally, was it open more hours or?
Yes, it was. I think it used to be open 10 to 2.
All right.
Yeah, but that's, when I moved here 16 years ago, 17 years ago, I think they had 2 shifts a week.
All right.
Somebody 10 to 12 and somebody 12 to 2.
All right. So how long is it? When was it reduced? Do you think?
How long, I don't know. So what do you think?
I think it was when Betsy and Jack Peacock took over, and I'm going to say that's maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
7 or 8 years ago.
I think so, yeah.
Now the
Yeah.
thrift store. These students are doing a documentary on how the community is involved with St. Mark's. So the thrift store has a huge part of that, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
We have a lot of members throughout the neighborhood. Yes.
For instance, I want to tell you about the Catholic home.
Here, I'm going to give you
we
this really
have-
quick while she.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking to this.
Okay, we have maybe half a dozen women that live at the Catholic home, and they come here for several reasons. First of all, it's a nice walk. If they're able to walk, it's good exercise for them. Secondly, if they find a bargain here, something they like, because, you know, they're on fixed incomes, they like it. And the third thing is, a lot of them, we're part of their social network. You know, we're friends. And there's one lady who comes here probably twice a month, 2 or 3 times a month, and she's been coming for as long as I've been involved here, which is about 8 years. And, you know, we're friends. And she insists, she's an older lady up in her 80s, but she insists if there's nobody here helping me, she will stay and help me in the thrift shop. So we, you know, I've made a lot of friends through the thrift shop. And then there are people from other neighborhoods and this neighborhood that might come in, and particularly with the problems with the economy that have been going on, there are people that come in that cannot make the budget stretch unless they purchase clothing and other items at the thrift shop. So that's another type of person who comes here to shop. And then the third person is just somebody who loves a bargain. There's a lady who comes in, and I'm pretty sure she's an antiques dealer. I think she deals mostly in jewelry. And she'll come in and check out our jewelry to see what we've got for sale. So 3 or 4 kinds of people that I can identify that like to shop here.
You also have a lot of people, excuse me, that come that just they're homeless and you help
Yes,
out.
yes. I have 2 people I can think of right now, a woman and a man, and they come in once a month. They used to come in more often, but I made a bargain with them. I said, we need to make a little money, but we understand you also need to have clothing, but I'm going to ask you to just come in once a month. So that's what they do. And the gentleman especially gets outfitted from the skin out when he comes here, and, you know, that's free. That's part of our ministry, too.
And all of your proceeds go to the various.
Right. Well, what happens is that we have a pledge that we make to the church, a certain amount of money, and there's only a couple of months I can think of when the economy was really bad and people weren't shopping that we weren't able to make the amount of that pledge. But otherwise, we give that pledge to the church, and they use it where it is most necessary. The other thing we do is that we have given scholarships for our children to go to Camp Webb, which is the Episcopal summer camp. And I can think of at least 6 scholarships that we've given. And then there are other nonprofits that we give to also where the money is needed. Okay.
Well, we can. This is Jane. She's involved in one of the organizations the money goes to. She's involved with Eastside Senior Services.
Okay.
And she does fantastic work with the seniors in the community to let them basically stay in their home. She's part of Interfaith.
We're from UWM and doing some research on this neighborhood and just getting a tour, short tour around this church.
Yeah. If you have any questions, come on upstairs and
Jane's
ask
been
me,
here
or-
for how many years have you been housed in
this
here?
location, I think it's been 7 years.
They
Been
used to
working for
be
11 years with us. So.
they used to be down the street with Plymouth Church. I don't know why you guys moved over here.
Because
we love you.
Because we merged 2 programs.
Oh, okay.
And I used to work downtown, and then I merged with the east side, and then our area got bigger, and we moved over here. Because we're ecumenical, we don't want to identify too long with just one church. And I guess they had been at Plymouth for a long time.
There's a number of the churches in this area support Jane's mission, and they donate a certain amount of funds every
Every
year to keep it going on.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of volunteers.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah, I love this show.
Yeah, it's cool. When they every season they go through and they purge stuff, and then that stuff goes to the Goodwill, right?
Correct.
So everything always goes somewhere to somebody who needs it. Mm-hmm.
Here we have what we call a bag sale, the end of the summer and end of March or early in April, and that's when we get rid of the stuff that hasn't sold from that season. We have a $3 a bag sale, and we provide the bags, and anything they can stuff in a bag that goes on your body, they can have for $3 a bag.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really good deal.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool because a lot of the people too that donate the clothes are church parishioners, but you also have a lot of community members that know that have been coming here for years and years and years,
absolutely, yeah.
who donate a lot of the clothing and things like that. We urge people to spring cleaning to purge and give us all their good stuff.
Basically, the only things we can't take because we can't resell them are old televisions and old computers. and
Electronics.
Electronics, anything like that.
They don't take electronics, but they do have like certain things that they need, like jackets or winter jackets, any winter clothing. We get a lot of people that just can't afford things, and so they come here and Sue sets them up. So we're always looking for jackets and
Absolutely.
boots and warm
Kids'
mittens
clothes,
and
kids'
socks
clothes.
and kids' clothes.
And we had a wonderful person who's a member of the church. I think she gave us about 20 bags of children's clothing earlier this spring, and it's just wonderful
Yep.
to see that.
Yep.
Thanks for coming in.
This is really sad. Since we had the flood, they've had to like this used to be a kitchen over here, and now, see, and this is like old school church kitchen where you have the little serving area, but now they just kind of use it as like a storage area. But this was where the nursery and everything would get. They'd have their Kool-Aid, and this was like the hip youth area down here.
When was the flood?
I'll show you. The flood is like every time it rains, it comes in, and they've had issues with the rainwater leaking down. I think these are fixed for the most part, but you can see it's just all the tile. Oh, Michelle's here. And then down here you can see all the tiles gone because I think there was one December, we'll be right up, Michelle, one December where we just got an onslaught, and it was just constant. Before me, this is before my predecessor, and so they had to kind of gut this used to be, I think, the bridal area, and then there's a bathroom in here, and this still, every time it rains, it floods.
So you lost a lot.
We lost a lot. Yeah, it would be so cool if we could redo it and then have more community events and things like that. And here is Deacon Michelle.
I have two teammates here. She is a friend.
Hi, Michelle. We've had a wonderful tour. Oh, good.
Yes, I've given them, I'm going to pass the mic on to you.
Why, what is,
They're taping what you say so they can use it for their documentary.
oh,
Do you
okay.
guys want to come into the library? Or do you have time? I know, when are you meeting with Susan?
Actually 11.
What time is it?
10:30.
Yeah.
So we have
Do you have a half hour?
half an hour.
That'll work. Michelle can give you all the background. Michelle, how many years have you been here?
Since 1973.
That's as old as me. That's 40 years.
Yeah.
Michelle's been here for 40 years. She's involved in almost everything in this building. She's like our godsend, our angel. She does everything. She is involved in Common Ground, which is our social justice. She's a huge organizer. She won an award last year for her involvement from the bishop. I know she won't tell you that.
Let me just get this. Thank you. Might as well get the introduction.
Oh, okay. Michelle has been here for 40 years, and she does everything here. She's just fantastic. And you can pay me later, Michelle. She's involved in Common Ground, which is our social justice group, and last year she won an award from the bishop for her involvement. She's routinely given the daunting task of serving for all of our Mark's Bistro nights. On Thursday nights, we have like a special Bible study, and they have dinners, and then they do the Bible study. And she is like a chef beyond anything. Her menus, when I come in the next day, I just still drooling. It's just unbelievable. She also does the Seder meal, which I think there's like 100+ people that she does all the cooking for. She's involved in the Gathering. You were like one of the founders of the Gathering, weren't you, Michelle?
Well, I was their first executive director.
Okay, the first executive director. So you can ask her about the Gathering, the social justice group, Common Ground. And then she's also our main sheriff of our parking rental spots. And it is, because we, especially with Pizza Man opening up on the corner, which we're all excited about, we're worried because people like to go and have lunch over at Cafe Hollander, and then they park in our lot. And since we rent out some of the spaces, Michelle sheriffs them in. She's also involved in our community garden, which is, you'll see it's on the back of our property over here, and she can tell you more about that. In addition, she serves as kind of the assistant pastor here. I mean, she does all the pastoral concerns. She preaches on Sundays. When our pastor isn't here, she's does the communion, the Eucharist, and she's just very involved. This church, she's the foundation of this church. She's just amazing. We love you.
Okay, so what do you guys want to know?
Everything. No, I don't understand. You're doing it.
So go ahead. First of all, I want to ask a question about yourself. May I ask you where you live? You live in the condo, right? Right across.
Where do I live? Yeah, across the street at the St. Regis.
How long have you been there? Like, for a long time?
Since 1998.
Okay. Have you moved from another like place?
Yeah, I live just above UWM on Maryland.
May I ask why you decided to move here?
Well, my husband and I have always wanted to. He was born on Oakland Avenue, lived in the city, and then other places all his life. He's been was a Milwaukeean, and we had our last son was at Lawrence, and we wanted to move. Looking condos were kind of an exciting thing then, and still are in ways. And I have always loved this neighborhood. I mean, even though I serve here, but I just like it because it's walkable. In some ways, it's like a little European town right here. And so we just started looking and found this one. And it's a huge old condo with the old, monster leaded glass, dining room, breakfast room, kitchen. It's 1,700 square feet, 2 bathrooms. And it's just a lovely place.
Do you love your current place a lot?
Oh yeah, absolutely. To me, this whole area is just a fabulous urban area to live in. It has neighborhood kind of qualities, but some of the qualities of living in the city and being close to downtown, right on the bus. I have a 7-year-old car that has 30-something thousand miles on it. I mean, it hardly gets used. It's wonderful.
You mentioned your son, right? And do you have any other family members? Like,
Well, I'm a widow, but I mean, between us we had 7 children. 5 of them live here. My 3 live here. Well, one lives in Thiensville, which is kind of outer world. One lives in Whitefish Bay, and one lives in Sherman Park on the west side.
Okay. So we want to ask about the question about the community garden,
Mm-hmm.
and you were in charge of.
Mhm.
Can you tell me how did you get involved in that kind of activity here?
Oh, well, of course, been a member of this parish, and then after I was ordained, I've been assigned here since I've been ordained for 10 years. Um, we have a gorgeous, absolutely beautiful secret garden in the back of our condo. It's all walled in, and it's a shade, sort of has much of the stuff of a sort of forest land garden. If you ever want to see it, I'd be glad to show it to you. It's absolutely beautiful. You cannot grow, however, any vegetables or anything like that. And so selfishly, I thought, wouldn't it be fun? Take some of our green space here and take the turf out and start a garden. And originally it was a cooperative garden. There were a bunch of all gardening it cooperatively, and we were tithing 1/10 of it to food programs. And getting people, although I've always been interested in cooperatives, and I've been involved in managing a food co-op, and I'm on the co-op of a new health insurance company now. And nevertheless, it's a hard sell for a lot of people. They just, don't understand cooperatives. And I want my piece of land. So after 2 years of trying to talk people into gardening cooperatively, we made it into, everybody gets a plot. So we divided it up, and church members had a priority, and if whatever was left over, we would make it public, and people in the community could sign up. Well, that was about 10 years ago, and now it's about half and half, with everybody in the church, obviously, that wants one, has one, and the other half is filled with a waiting list of people in the neighborhood who've heard about it and want a space, So once you get one, you've got it for as long as you take care of it and use it. So that's how it started. We had developed a lot of flooding problems with it, and 3 years ago had significant crop damage with that major flooding in June of that year, and that would have been 11. Yeah. So one of the gardeners and members of the church, a woman named James Shiro, is a landscape gardener and by profession. So we regraded some of the front of the plots, the front ones that were having so much trouble, and created a rain garden and cut that swatch out that if you've been out there you can see, and planted that. It's a young rain garden, but we have not had any standing water in that garden since then. So it's been a spectacular success. It's a pleasure to look at. So it's a great, I think it's a great asset to the neighborhood. Met lots of people in the community that we interface with that we would have never, particularly at all. And between that and the fact that we rent out this whole side, the north side of the lot, to people in the community that have no parking places, because none of these along here, they were built 100 years ago, both Georgetown and St. Regis, and none of those, of course, had any provision for parking. If people parked, they used to be parking on the corner above Boswell's. That was a garage and parking lot. I mean, that was a common, just like in New York or in Paris, or you garage your car, you go over and you take it out for the weekend or for whatever, but you didn't use it to go to work or things, So that's where I guess everyone kept the cars around here, and now, of course, that's changed. So those are rented out, and which is another way we have good, hopefully, are seen as good neighbors with the people in the area.
I want to just going back to the.
It is, by the way, not organic, because we haven't established that, but we ask that people honor our intention of having no pesticides, people are free to use natural fertilizers or bug inhibitors or whatever, but that nothing that would be of a chemical nature that would despoil the area are used there. So, and we have composting back there, and I guess that's about it.
I want to go back to the question about a waiting list of the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a long list or?
No, there are 2 or 3 people on it.
Do you think it would be better if people like each person gets their own plot, or like doing that cooperatively? In your opinion?
Well, the thing about the cooperative thing was, it makes tithing what we end up harvesting a lot easier if everybody together does squash and tomatoes and whatever. But and I think cooperatives are a great form of development, particularly in various kinds of neighborhoods. It's not a tradition. It's a tradition, though, that needs a lot of education around. Just like here, there are a lot of condos, very few cooperative housing. People the notion of it is something unlike, say, Chicago, where it's more common. People understand it, accept it. The only one I know of is up on Prospect, actually, which has had some problems with people not wanting to buy into the whole cooperative thing. And I don't know a whole lot about it. Hi, how are you? Good. Anyway, to me, I mean, this was sort of my private passion, and just not enough that I was going to go on a big thing to try to get it I mean, I could never get more than 4 or 5 people. Where now, everybody, we've got all sorts of people wanting to use it, and we encourage then people who have extra produce at the end of the summer. We take it down to like the Gathering, places like that. So we accomplish some of that. I don't think we probably do it in the amounts that we would have when we were co-oping, but.
What kind of people are using the garden currently? Like people live close by to the church?
Mm-hmm. Well, one person who's a member of the church lives, out in Fox Point, I think, but suspect, out there, a lot of mature growth and stuff, and for the same reason I wanted one over here. But as far as the ones in the community, it's all people that are within a block or so, around here. Oh, I didn't tell you the biggest thing about it. As far as I know, it's the only community garden. I say that loosely because we're not like a county garden. That we have a jerry-rigged apparatus that waters. So if you're familiar with most community gardens, people are having to carry water in. Well, this is done automatically for them. Okay. And I mean, there's a kind of bifurcated system where they can also use this watering wand if their particular plot needs water at some particular time. They've just put in new stuff. But then the other side of that system is an overhead system that waters the entire garden at once. And I get to choose when it gets watered, so it doesn't get overwatered. So it's last summer there was a lot of watering there. This year we've done once last week since its inception and before Memorial Day. So it just varies on the summer. But the church then pays, it's out of the church's water thing, and everybody pays $15 for a half plot, or $40, no, $25 for a half plot, $40 for a full plot, and for that they get mulch every other year. We bring in composted mulch, and then the charges for watering and various, like we built our composting corrals and things like that we do together,
It's $40 per month or
No, for the season.
for the season?
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm not really familiar with.
Yeah,
community
well,
gardening itself, so-
no,
Yeah.
I have no idea. I know water is, as it becomes, a more significant resource, and with the deep tunnel, we have high water charges in the city and surrounding areas. So in a drought season, I don't know if we come ahead or not, but we do it, so.
What else? What ask? I want to go back to the cooperative thing.
Mhm.
Why do you think that like something cooperative is difficult here rather than in Chicago or somewhere else?
Well, I don't know I don't know if there are, thousands of people swooning at the word co-op in Chicago. I just know that there are more condos that way. But here, I think that's probably not unlike most places in the United States. People just have the idea of liking to own their little plot rather than a percentage of a whole, and people are going to have agreement, together how they do things. Much of the governing of like a co-op, if you've ever, and a condo, if you ever lived in a condo, those kind of common decision-making rules about things are very similar. As far as I know, the structures are different legally and things, and I don't think that's so. I don't know if that's what scares people off or not. I don't know if they're harder to obtain finance, but a garden, I think it's just more that idea that I have my plot and I work on that one and I keep that up and I put in there what I want to put in there.
So you've been like involved in the community activities here for a long time, and I guess you've seen the change in the donor revenue.
Yeah, of course, I've only lived here a little over, let's see, what was that, 98? 12, 50, gosh. Anyway, I've seen change since I've lived here some, certainly, and I've certainly since living in Milwaukee since 72. So yeah, I think that this area was really, and I don't know when it was that Katz bought virtually the entire street except for the hardware stores independently owned, Syndic's is independently owned. What was the old coffee trader, precedes you, that was independently owned. Anyway, most of it was owned by Katz, including these two that he made into condos. Before that, it was really a series of the small independent shop owner, and it was a pretty vibrant area. Katz bought most of that up, and I'm thinking that must have been the 80s, but you might know better than I. And rents went up incredibly. A lot of the smaller shops left because they couldn't afford that, and but seemed to do well, and things were going along. A lot of the owners who'd been there struggled with the high rents and his lack of interest in doing repairs when basements got flooded and things like, or at least this is what the merchants tell me. but the kind of goods, I mean, most, the street has always seemed to me to be interesting from my perspective, seeing as I have a master's degree in urban development and planning, that it was about as complete an example of a little shopping area with a really wide range of first order goods. The grocery store had a filling station at one time. There's the movie theater. Actually, there were two grocery stores for a while. The drug stores, you know, all those, the cleaners, the restaurants, you know, all those things. And now, of course, there's doctors, there's other things. But it is nice in that it's not like an entirely restaurant-driven place, although it's becoming more that way. And some of those other little, you know, clothing stores and things, although we still have some, you know, but it's been I think, just a great example of how, of kind, you know, the village and the city kind of accessibility. And of course, with transit being the most used transit areas are 30 and 15. And, you know, 30 is right here, right at the corner, and et cetera. It's been really quite an interesting anchor point. And the church here, and there's, you know, some others right around there, and a kind of mix of density, apartments, homes, now condos, and of course, the students. It's been, although less students here than as you get closer. I mean, some people around here will not own, well, rent to graduate students, they'll rent to, you know, but not so much the big undergraduate crowd, but not entirely true. So I think there have been, you know, the bars in, bars out, you know, this kind of thing. There's been change, but I don't know, it hasn't really, the basic character of Downer has not, since I've been around in the 70s, hasn't really changed dramatically. Hasn't gone, hasn't had some big apex of development, hasn't, you know, certainly with the financial crisis in 10 and 8, I mean, there clearly was the new owners that bought from Katz, where they were going to put a hotel into that facade on the west side and build up, and some other condos behind what's now Boswell's. All of that stuff, you know, has pretty well evaporated. And there was some talk that it was going to go down in the old bank building. That fell through, and I assume all of that, it didn't, though there was community pushback, notably from the water tower district, which is a lot of older, not older necessarily age, but established residents of wealth that I don't want things any different. Oh, the popcorn wagon can't go. It's been there for 20 years, you know. Nobody buys anything, but I like the popcorn wagon. So that kind of mentality, you know, the thing that with a brouhaha for 3 years over the parking garage, which of course nobody uses because they have to pay for it. So why would you use a parking garage that you had to pay for when you can sleuth around the neighborhood? But anyway, that's another story.
Can I interrupt?
Sure.
It's 11 o'clock, and I know we're going to want to take much more of what you have to talk about. So maybe we should reschedule when we can.
Take more time. She is really busy, and I'm not really sure if you could find another time.
Well, I probably could, although I don't have my calendar.
Yeah, we
We
can
should
tell her.
cancel with
We'll-
the next person?
No. We are going to see Susan Willets here
Oh, you are?
at 11. So, but she.
Well, we
hasn't
can keep
appeared.
talking till she
Yeah.
appears if
Yeah.
you want.
And
We can see. I mean, you can always, you have my phone number, right, or my
Yeah.
email?
Yeah.
call me and we can see if we can
Okay,
find
thank
another
you.
time. That's okay with me. I mean, I just live across the street, obviously. This week actually is a lot less busy than many for
Okay.
me. It's kind of a little bit of a
Okay,
downtime.
yeah, I'm gonna contact you.
Okay.
Then I just wanna go back to the story of
Uh-huh.
popcorn wagon.
Oh, my God.
I've just read the kind of historical designation report, and
Yeah.
I know it was over there and right around the corner, but I don't know when you.
But the popcorn wagon wasn't a historic designation.
Oh yeah, it was on the list.
No kidding. Well, Mike Idle, who's one of the owners of the Hollander and, you know, this set of restaurants around the city, he finally bought it. And,
When was it?
oh, just
Around-
kind of the height of the brouhaha over right around there and of the parking lot. And he had it on some land he owned and has left it there. Year and a half ago, Don, and I can't think of Don's last name, he used to be president of the Water Tower neighborhood. They demanded to see it because they wanted it and bring it back and put it across from the bank or whatever. I guess they went out. The thing, though, was in bits and pieces. I mean, it just, you know, it was something, well, let's say, to take that and put it back would be a Pyrrhic victory at best. The war's been lost or won, depending on however you think of it. And that silly popcorn wagon just symbolized all sorts of stuff. And I'm glad that Mike Idle bought it and let it go rot. I mean, it's just crazy, you know, to keep bringing these things up and going to the alderman. And unfortunately, the alderman's mother is part of and dad are part of the historic district. His dad was the one that sued everyone in the city over the building of that. Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah. And went on, God knows, for a couple of years. Nick Kovac's parents lived next door to it in this red Colonial. That finally the suit, I don't know where it is now, but it's kind of, I think, drifted into anonymity. It's an expensive undertaking to sue the city, and you know, unlike personal injury cases, they don't do that for free. And you know, if we lose, well, we lose. So that's gone by. I don't know what the status of it is now. I'm sure you could check with the city. But, you know, I think it's one of those things that becomes a kind of flashpoint for people who were anti-development, I can remember when they talked about things, you know, 10, 15 years ago. Well, we don't want any more of this or this or that, or when they talked about maybe doing a little more parking over here or something at one point. We think that the people that use Downer should be able to walk there. We don't want other people. You know, if you have to drive here, you don't belong here kind of thing. Well, that's of course absurd, and you won't have any kind of development that way, but and that was a lot behind the, you know, the corner, the big structure, and of course then they devolved into these great architectural battles. It should look like Disneyland. By that I mean, it should be made to look like what we think a parking structure would have looked like 100 years ago, and you know, no amount of discussion of it should just be good architecture that infills in an area that's what's happened. Whether you think that's good architecture, you know, is your own choice. But getting away from that lets everything look like what we think it should have looked like, kind of thing. And it'll be interesting with Pizza Man because there's going to be significant changes, not too much, but quite a bit to the facade and the end building part of it. Actually, I think it's fascinating what's going to end up there with this cantilevered second floor over the street, and then the inside is open to the air. It's going to be quite a structure, but anyway. Okay,
Yeah,
that was
fine.
Susan Willits, yes.
So I'm gonna contact you to
Sure.
reschedule the other time.
Sure.
Thank you very much for the
Hello,
day.
Miss Susan.
Hello, Michelle. I'm sure you're telling them everything they could possibly want to know.
Probably more so.
Time to tell us.
We'll have to get it in just have to do
Downer is one of my favorite subjects.
Oh,
I love
oh,
Downer.
that's great.
And in the paper, interestingly, you guys should probably track it down. Go over to the Lubavitchers that are over on the corner over here of where where Lincoln Memorial Drive starts. It's that huge place, huge mansion that it's on the northwest corner, and it has a big menorah in the yard. Do you know which one I mean?
I do,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
from
She-
Milwaukee, they,
Oh, okay.
they're new to
It's
Milwaukee.
right up here by, she's talking about right up here, right? Where Lake Drive hits Downer Avenue, is that what you're
Well,
talking about?
where Lincoln Memorial Drive starts, right there. It's a corner of the park.
Near UW
Okay.
Kenwood.
Oh, yeah, Kenwood.
Oh, that's Kenwood. Okay, yes, yes, yes.
It's-
Yeah, yeah,
we said
yeah.
Lincoln
Yes.
Memorial, we think down here, but
Yes.
It's right up here, there's the,
Okay.
Okay.
They are starting, which is a whole nother thing about the Jewish community here, but anyway, I go on for that too. But they are starting an Orthodox high school for boys.
Oh, really?
There's one now. Some of my grandchildren go to WIST, which is the Wisconsin Institute for the Torah Studies, which is over on Lake Drive, just if on the east side. It's an old mansion, actually, that belonged to Episcopal nuns. Anyway, that's another story. That's a boarding school, primarily, and some day students. This is going to be a day school, but what's interesting about it is they're planning to have 10 to 12 boys or something in the fall. And apparently, in the article on Sunday, I think, in the Journal, the rabbi there, or the developer for the Lubavitchers, which is like a movement in Judaism, he said, we can't say where because all the lease work hasn't been done, but it's going to be on Downer Avenue, which blew my brain. And I'm thinking maybe this little day school is going to be in the old bank or down in the old Chancery space. So we're going to have an Orthodox boys' high school. Now that will be somewhat of a change from the traditional occupants of Downer Avenue. Because unless it was further down on Downer.
But the
Where
bank would be
is-
perfect.
It could be a house too. Where is?
Well,
the
yeah,
old
I mean,
it's right here on the corner.
it's the new bank, which is the old bank, but they moved from down there.
It's an
Corner of
abandoned
Park
bank on
and
the corner
Downer.
right now.
It's now at Bellevue and Downer, but it was at
The
Park
big
and Downer.
picture there is the new one,
Right, I know
the
the new
original
one.
bank.
Where was the
It
original?
is
It's right
still
next to
there.
Downer Liquor.
That's true. I suppose it could be a
It's right on
house
the
right
corner,
now
here
with
behind
10
the
boys.
apartment complexes.
Oh, is it on Faces Downer?
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's,
Don't remember
it's,
it.
it's there right now, nobody's in it, it's been unoccupied for what, 4
So
years?
it's
4 or 5.
yeah, it's in front of the Sundex, right?
It's
Yeah,
in front of Sunday.
That's what they talked about
It's an empty.
one time, making a boutique, a hotel out
Yeah,
of.
they were gonna do.
There'd been once a doctor, before the sort of crash, a guy, a doctor of, nip and tuck, was
Plastic surgery.
going to be in there with sort of a day spa, get your Botox, get your whatever, was going to be in there. And then apartments above, which we're going to look into my window, which still may happen, above the first floor of Downer, which was all cars parked. That was another garage,
Yeah, I
valet.
think there's still, if you peep in, there's like vans that are still up there
There are a
now.
few they rent out, yeah. The
Yeah.
problem is that structure is like what was over Boswell's, has to be heavily, heavily reinforced. Particularly those areas because they had cars with salt and water over a century, been really done some damage, but, and anyway, that'll be an interesting one. See what happens if that's over here, I don't know, somebody said a house, maybe. Could be a house if they're only taking 8 or 10 boys initially. But he said sign a lease, well, who knows, but it's
Because
gonna.
there's houses all, I mean, I live on Downer.
Yeah, right, yeah. So it could be, who knows?
Can we do this afternoon maybe, or are we booked this afternoon?
Oh, well, we will have the interview with Steve at 12:30 to 1, and then we can do that today, actually, afternoon.
Yeah.
If
You
you
have time.
have the time.
Oh, to come back and talk here?
Yeah, like 3? What would
Or like
3 o'clock I could do. I'm gonna run some errands and I have to be back here for vestry and
What time are you
gardening.
meeting with Steve?
12:30
so
to
we
1.
should be done by 3.
You should be done.
Yeah,
Well,
by 1.
You know how Steve talks.
12:30 to 1:30, you said?
But he has
Um,
classes. He's got music classes.
I can check in here
Yeah, 2 or
around
3.
2 if
Yeah,
I can. I gotta go run some errands, but I can.
Great. I think Steve is probably gonna have classes this afternoon.
Yeah.
So that would work out.
Okay.
So
Can I see your pen?
He likes to.
Either, no, is that a pen or a pencil?
I'll give you her home number so you can call her. Does anybody have a cell phone in case?
I even have my cell phone with me for a change.
What is your number, Michelle?
Well, my home number is 964-3118. My cell phone is 731-0329.
All right.
If you get somebody else, oh, there.
So much.
I've got a doctor's appointment. I have to leave here at 12:30. I'm not coming back because it's like a 3-hour long.
Ooh,
They're
have
probably gonna drain
fun.
me of my blood.
Oh, dear.
All of it.
Give some
Vince and Frank, no, but.
Okay, good luck. Well,
You
nice
go.
to talk with you guys.
Oh, Kay West gave me this to give to you. We photocopied it. It was originally on some parchment, and it was a print with just a little bit of painting and dots. So you can have this.
Oh, is that cute?
But this was like a Christmas thing. It was very, very cute.
Oh, that is
And
so
she
sweet.
wanted you to have this. And Susan's going to go through. Susan lived here for 25 years, right?
No. I lived over there for.
Or 25 years ago or something. No,
Yeah,
not right.
20 years ago, I
Okay, so
heard.
this
Yeah.
is the bank building.
Yeah.
This was the bank building right here.
Yes.
the
That's
one.
it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's vacant now, actually.
Yes.
You can see that.
Mhm.
Frankly, I think it's better over there.
Except that it's so tall. It's just a big edifice where
That's
everything
true.
else
We're-
is.
that's
It's
happening-
very modern looking compared to all the rest
That's
of
happening
it.
because my neighborhood is Oakland, north of Capitol,
Okay.
and they built this. They're in the process on the corner, just where the Sendix is.
Yes.
Have you been up there?
Oh, I
They're
hate
putting
it. I
they're
hate it
putting
because I live.
6-story.
You can't-
It
just-
dominates
Yeah,
everything.
and
It
it
does-
just ruins the essence of the
And now I
village.
heard they're ripping down Pick and Save and putting in a Metro Mart.
Yes.
Well, that's okay. That pick and save is disgusting.
It needs to be redone, yeah, but it's still, when, there was a gentleman, I used to live right over there too, and there was a gentleman who said, oh, it'll be good because think of all the taxes that Shore will be able to collect.
That's all they're thinking.
And I haven't, I never thought about that, but
I
you know
know.
what, there's so many apartments already. Shorewood, when I lived there, it was all hair salons.
That's not so good either.
And there's like 30 of them up and down that street. I mean, it's crazy. And then, and nothing has been able to sustain itself on that corner where Actea Works. I mean,
What is?
Actea Works used to
Oh,
be.
yes, right.
I mean, they tried bringing in so many restaurants. I mean, and I think it's just parking. I don't know. But with the school across the street, you would think that something going in there, I mean.
Unfortunately, they did in subways, because the students come in the
Yeah.
subway, that's very close there.
Yeah.
I think that's what's gonna go into Actea too, some kind of
Yeah,
McDonald's
fast
or
food,
something.
I'm just amazed at the village of Shorewood is
It's
allowing this to
evolved.
happen.
Well, I can't believe.
Because they've been so strict in the past.
Actually,
Yeah,
we can go off.
Yeah,
the-
this is off the record. Yeah, you don't need
Yeah, we
this.
probably should.
I
Yeah,
actually wanna
take that
do-
off.
I wanna do some research into that, to see what's going on. I
Well, it's
can't imagine
terrible.
that there was anything but something underhanded to allow that to go on.
I know.
It's
I know,
crazy.
because it just ruins the whole look of
That's
that
right.
area
It's
of
so-
Sherwood.
They
it's
could have
gonna
done
be
it
so
4
shady.
stories, and it would have been fine.
Not that bad.
Why 6
that
stories?
high. I know. I was out there
Yeah.
yesterday.
Nobody else got permission for 6 stories.
Well, they're so difficult. Everybody I know that I used to know a bunch of the owners within those businesses, and everybody would say when I was thinking of starting a business, don't do it in Shorewood. They're so difficult.
Yeah,
The rent, it was just so difficult.
I
There
have
were
to
so
tell
many.
you,
And Gilda's Club, I used to work for Gilda's Club,
yeah.
and they flooded so many times. They wouldn't let them put in the special pipes they needed to prevent the flooding. I mean, so they were just.
Listen to what happened to me just recently. Our business is, we're a small, we own units in Sherwood, which we rent out.
Mhm.
And our idea is to make them first class, and it has worked very well because we've spent lots of money upgrading them, and our tenants are wonderful. They love it, they stay, and we attract families. I mean, you think just what Sherwood wants. So we have a unit that we bought last year. It was disgusting, and we upgraded it. And now we want to we thought it'd be beautiful to have it's a corner unit to have a deck.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's a corner unit, because it has no backyard, because it's a corner unit, it would go on to Kramer where the rest of the block has their fronts, okay? So, they of course turned it down because that's not normal, and then we went to for
Appeal.
a variance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody got notice on the street. By the way, every time I'm over there, which is constantly, because I like to do the gardening
Mm-hmm.
on our units, the neighbors come over and they tell me they are so happy with how this has turned around.
Mm-hmm.
The house was disgusting,
Yeah.
and now it's just beautiful. We put in whole new lawns, everything, just beautiful. Everything's been replaced on the outside. It looks just fabulous. So, we're at this hearing, and there's nobody there except one gentleman. And they asked me, this guy, his name is Schmeck Pepper. He's I know, you want to laugh. He's the main guy there, and he sits up on the thing, and he says, well, he makes me justify why we're doing it. And I said, look, there's a hardship. There's no backyard. I think it's going to be small. I think the neighbors won't mind. There's nobody here protesting. I mean, I don't know what to say because it's so vague, this rule. And then I sit down. So then he says, is there anybody here to talk? And then this man raises his hand and comes up. And I thought, now I'm sunk. Here I just said the neighbors don't mind, and here this guy shows up. He goes up there and he says, I think you should grant this. These people have made such improvements here.
How nice.
Yeah, I didn't know this guy from Adam. And he says, I think it would look very nice, and I live right across the street.
What bless his heart.
Yeah.
Did you get it? Long story short? Oh.
Wait a second.
Oh.
Wait a second. Wait a
Okay.
second. And then he ends by saying, you people, you let that monstrosity on the corner there, and you're not going to let her have a nice deck here that would be good. That's what he says. And then he sits down, and I thank him, and everything. They turned it down.
They did. I want to talk to you, not now, but I want to talk to you because we're going through similar things. We want to have an air conditioning unit put in, and we were denied. So now we have to pay. We paid $55 for the permit. It was denied, which we knew it would be because we want it on the side of our house. We're on a corner, and we can't have it on the other side. We can't have it in the back because we have concrete. And the patio door and the door, there's no place to put it. And so we went in and we were talking to this guy. I
Is
said,
it Sherwood?
this is Whitefish Bay.
Oh.
And I said, you guys are putting a DPW building in a kitty corner to us. I can't, health-wise, I can't deal with it. When they did the road repair, I'm like, I need AC. I have to because my house, I'm still cleaning it up and I just have allergies. And he said, well, what we'll have to do, I have to go in and I have to go in front of the board to argue why I need it on the side. And I have to pay $255 to do
Right.
this.
Yeah, we had to pay too.
And I'm just like, this is so discriminating just because I'm on the corner. I mean, this is nuts. So he told me, well, you're going to have it back by your garage, which means my coolant is going to go. It's stupid. So I'll have to get your telephone. I wanted to hear how you did this.
Well, I
But-
wasn't successful.
Yeah, I know, but still, I mean,